Google, meta descriptions not required, but they are useful. Okay, so what's up with meta descriptions? Years ago, when I was working at an agency, we didn't even care about meta descriptions. We didn't even send recommendations for meta descriptions, right? They just didn't matter anymore because Google was just picking random pieces of text, whatever, and showing it to the user in search, right? Maybe there was a time when they mattered when your meta description was actually shown to search. However, today's world, it's a bit different. Why? Obviously, Google still may ignore your meta description tag and show whatever text they find more relevant to the user. However, we don't know for sure how LLM crawlers that crawl the web and retrieve all of the content um, really deal with them. Like, assuming they're also included as part of the page text. So, there is some value, right? Okay, but what did Google say recently? So, someone on Reddit asked this question here. Um, Meta descriptions pointless and useless. Then John Mueller chimed in, and we're also always interested to know what John Mueller will say. So someone said it's true not because he said it, but because it's been true for 20 plus years. So then John Mueller says yes, but also there's no penalty to writing your own, and sometimes it helps you figure out a clear focus for a page. Overall, I think it's still worthwhile to do so for individual pages that you care about, but it's definitely not a requirement. Okay, so he said a lot of things here. So there's no downside to writing it. You don't want to waste resources on writing meta descriptions, but today you can automate that. Like it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. So, I mean, there's no downside. And then another thing is that if you ask your copywriters to write a meta description, right, it helps them focus on what this blog is about. So for example, this blog is about whatever, or if you want to learn more about so and so, like, it helps them focus. It can act as a working title with a bit more detail, right? Uh, and overall, John says he thinks it's worthwhile to do so for individual pages that you care about. So, um, I don't think okay, hear me out. I know, like, I disagree a lot with what Google people say, but if they say something is, "Hey, this is not useful," I would question that. But if they say, "This is useful," or "This is helpful," I would agree with that, more likely to agree with that. Why? Because they usually wouldn't want to tell us to do something that's useless. So like schema, for example, Google still maintains the documentation for schema. Not getting into this entire debate. However, let's get back here. So I would think this is a useful tip. I would add it to my workflow. Yes. So if you have individual pages that you think are important, your money pages, bottom funnel pages. For example, if you're a SaaS, the page about features, for example, or about where, like the one that you capture most of your leads, for example, homepage, right? Stuff like that. Like your foundational pages, yeah, you should have a meta description there, but it's not a requirement, right? It's good. And then he says here, but it matters what type of document it is. If it is a large, comprehensive page that goes deeply into a big topic, it will be nearly impossible to write a meta description that will match the wide range of search queries the page might appear in search for. I kind of disagree. There's always a way to have like a high level description of what you're writing about. You can say I'm writing beginner's guide to SEO, learn the basics, know what you need, whatever, right? And you can have a complete, long, lengthy, in-depth guide about all areas of SEO. So I kind of disagree here. But then John Mueller says, yeah, it depends, but also Neon seems to be dead. I'm not sure what that means, but all in all, the question is whether should you write them in the description, yes or no? yes for your foundational pages. It's never a no. It's never a no. It's a matter of priorities and resources. And don't put a lot of hopes on, hey, I wrote my meta descriptions. I should see improvements in search right now. Yeah, that's that. Hope you found this useful and see you next video. Bye.